The Russians make their ships invisible, quote-unquote, unprecedented armor of the Black Sea Fleet with weapons unknown to the West and Ukraine. The Russians are placing innovative electronic warfare systems and not only on their ships. 2 more Ukrainian attacks by maritime drones from Ukraine on July 16 and 17 in the northern Black Sea and on the Kerch Bridge have raised alarm in the Russian Navy, which has planned to upgrade weapon systems on its ships. Following the 6th maritime attack since October 2022, the Russian government has now also withdrawn from the Black Sea Grain Initiative, the quadripartite agreement between Moscow, Ukraine, Turkey, and the United Nations. The UN allows grain exports from Ukraine's Black Sea ports. The Russians have added electronic warfare systems to their ships for more protection against the perennial threat of maritime drones. 4 of the 6 total attacks by maritime drones on the Russian Navy fleet, including the July 16 strike, occurred in the northern Black Sea near Sevastopol. The Crimean coastal city is home to the Russian Black Sea Fleet. The first attack took place October 2022 with 9 aerial and 7 maritime drones. The second attempt was March 23rd with 3, while the third attack, April 24th, occurred with 2. The Crimea Bridge was one of the attacks. The successes of electronic warfare. In the 4th attempt on June 12th, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced that the intelligence-gathering ship Pryazovi was attacked by 6 unmanned surface vessels, SUVs. The July 16 strike was executed thanks to a combination of drones and SUVs that were repulsed by air defense forces and the fleet without material damage to the Russian ships. And this was followed by a nighttime attack on Monday, July 17 on the Kerch Bridge. That's the bridge between Crimea and Russia. This was followed by a nighttime attack Monday, July 17 on the Kerch Bridge. The Russians counterattacked with electronic warfare systems. 5 drones were neutralized by electronic warfare systems, while the rest were hit by ship weapons. The 2 SUVs were destroyed by typical water protection vessel weapons, and these included 14.5 mm machine gun fire. And the Russian fleet is deadly, they said. Izvestia cited Russian military sources reports that Russian warships and boats have already received the appropriate modernization, including at least 1 landing craft. While the nature of the weapons remains unknown, expert Dmitry Boltenkov spoke of a combination of observation radar and hydroacoustic weapons that create a protective perimeter around each ship, according to the Eurasian Times reports. For its part, Ukraine does not rely on the success of each attack, but on the wear and tear of the Russian Navy, which is forced to constantly raise alert levels. Trench warfare in the sea. The enemy is resourceful, actively uses aircraft-type drones. It started using surface drones, Boltenkov said. Samuel Bendet, an expert in military robotics and artificial intelligence AI at the Center for Naval Analysis, CNA, spoke to the Eurasian Times about a peculiar technical warfare at sea. He says Ukraine SUVs are usually small and not particularly protected against countermeasures given their kamikaze role. The Russians and the Ukrainians likely learn from each strike. The Russians learn how to better detect and prevent such SUVs from conducting strikes, while the Ukrainians learn about Russia's vulnerabilities, he noted. The reality is that Ukraine is constantly imposing a high cost on the Russian Navy by launching small, inexpensive SUVs against ships and port facilities. Defending against such attacks means a constant state of alert, Bendet said. The Ukrainians, however, may have a large but not mass-produced inventory of SUVs, so it's expected that in the near future they will use them sparingly and not for strategic purposes. Russian Navy men, too, have raised the alarm about the persistent attacks. Russian Captain Maxim Klimov drew attention to the capabilities of SUVs and was the first on April 24th in an interview with Pravda to suggest the development of modern countermeasures to counter them. He says vessels, SUVs, jump over the waves, constantly changing course. This is a rather dangerous enemy, and we must seriously consider the development of countermeasures, Klimov said. The upgrade, on July 15, a source in the Russian Navy published information about it, and with plans to retire the Kirov-class nuclear-powered battleship Pyotr Veliky, Peter the Great in English. The modernization plan has been cancelled, with the battle cruiser, heavy nuclear-powered missile cruiser in Russian military nomenclature, to be decommissioned instead. The Kirov-class warships are by far the largest surface warships in the world, with a displacement of 28,000 tons, making them comparable in size to the Japanese Izumo-class aircraft carriers. In addition, they are more than 3 times larger than the U.S. Navy's Arleigh-Burke-class destroyers. The 4 giants. The Soviet Union built 4 of these giants, the last being the battleship Peter the Great, built in 1986 and launched in 1989. The first 2 ships, Admiral Ushakov and Admiral Lazarev, were decommissioned during troubled 1990s, when the state simply could not afford to maintain such sophisticated warships. Both ships had started the dismantling process in 2021. The 2 newest ships, named Admiral Nakimov and Peter the Great, were expected to be modernized with the latest weapons, electronics, and sensors for the 21st century naval warfare. The Admiral Nakimov is due to be redeployed after its renovation is completed in 2024 and 25. The same was planned for Peter the Great, but the plan appears to have been scrapped, according to anonymous sources in the Russian Navy. Although the information has yet to be officially verified, it's been widely reported that major Russian media outlets, if true, this would leave the Russian Navy with only 1 active Kirov-class warship. The new doctrine of Russia. However, despite the enormous firepower of such warships, as well as their ability to carry a greater number of advanced hypersonics and the latest anti-ship and multi-purpose hypersonic missiles, the new naval doctrine adopted by the Russian Navy makes such a warship more of a burden than an advantage. Since the breakup of the USSR, Russia has reduced the size of its blue water, their ocean surface combatant fleet, in favor of a larger and more capable brown, inland and shallow coastal waters, and green water, that's wider coastal areas, fleet of heavily armed corvettes and frigates, although the later can be used for blue water purposes due to their greater durability. And thanks to advances in Russian missile capabilities, particularly the development of supersonic scramjet cruise missiles such as the 3M-22 Zircon, as well as the numerous variants of the hybrid Caliber family of subsonic supersonic missiles, which are highly compact while being equally more capable from their much larger Soviet-era ancestors, Russian warships have become capable of engaging targets at extreme ranges. In other words, even relatively small corvettes and frigates can carry substantial arsenals of practically strategic range missiles that can be launched comfortably from areas near the Russian coast. The weight on more flexible ships. The Russian Navy has repeatedly demonstrated its capability since 2015, when Buyan-class corvettes and Gepard-class frigates based in the Caspian Sea used Caliber missiles to strike foreign-backed terrorists in Syria. The same ships were able to cross the complex network of waterways in southern Russia and enter the Black Sea, from where they were also used in the special military operation. The result was devastating for Kiev regime at a fraction of the cost of larger ships such as Peter the Great. Additionally, most Russian corvettes and frigates use advanced stealth technologies, making them extremely difficult to detect. A position vis-à-vis the West. As mentioned earlier, this is further compounded for Russia's enemies by the fact that they carry very long-range missiles, meaning that Russia uses these much more affordable warships as long-range invisible snipers capable of dealing with very larger warships or even entire carrier battle groups. This adds to NATO's confusion after the Gorshov frigate equipped with hypersonic missiles was sent to the Mediterranean earlier this year, and for good reason, as this Russian warship is capable of engaging much larger enemy naval assets, especially the aforementioned carrier battle groups, CVBGs, while maintaining a safe distance from them. And in addition, the Admiral Gorshoff uses advanced SAM, that surface-to-air missile systems, that can work with enemy aircraft. In addition to the arsenal caliber cruise missiles, specifically the NK variant with a range of 4,500 kilometers, the 3M-22 Zircon hypersonic cruise missile, the Russian frigate is also armed with Otvet anti-submarine missiles, Onyx hypersonic missiles, Polymint Redut SAM systems with 32 medium-range missile ranges or 128 short-range missiles, Packet NK torpedo systems, 130mm AK-192M Armat gun, and 2 CIWS Palash, that's close-in weapon systems. The frigate also carries a single KA-27PL ASW, that's anti-submarine warfare helicopter. And the presence of the battleship, nevertheless, the Russian Navy will use its only remaining Kirov-class battleship, deploying it to the Arctic as part of the Northern Fleet, where it will serve as a strategic asset in the increasingly contested northern region. Being the world's only nuclear-powered surface warship, the Admiral Nakhimov has significant advantages in terms of durability, allowing it to remain deployed for months. And while it will certainly bolster the defense of Russia's northernmost strategic areas, newer classes of warships, such as the aforementioned frigates and corvettes, will form the backbone of Russia's naval power for decades to come. This is from Banking News Greece. I've translated from your Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.